My son is on the spectrum. He's high functioning, and he learned to become water confident in the water through the third grade program in Pasadena. However, part of who he is and being on the spectrum is this sense of intellectually, I think I know how to swim, but physically couldn't swim. And he had been at a party in 5th grade and needed to be rescued. You know, a diagnosis isn't the end. It's only information about direction. It's not meant to limit, it's more to inform. So that's how we looked at it. We not only do swim lessons for the local community, but we also work with the district in Pasadena and teach 3rd graders how to swim. And so every kid goes through the program in the 3rd grade in Pasadena, and they get their swim gear, and then at the end they get a medal, and we invite the families back.
Well, I love the San Gabriel Valley.
Welcome to the My SGV podcast.
So I grew up here and I still live in Alhambra.
I was raised in between Temple City and Alhambra.
Eventually resided in South San Gabriel.
Our mission is to capture and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley.
Monterey Park has pretty much been my whole life.
Well, I'm proud to say that I was born and raised in the San Gabriel Valley.
We believe our diversity is what makes the SGV great. And no matter where you are from in the San Gabriel Valley, you will feel welcome. All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the My SGV podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new here, we bring you the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. And if you are a returning listener, thank you so much for spending this time with us. Really, really do appreciate it. Well, Melanie, did I tell you my kids learned to swim at the Rose Bowl?
That's fantastic. That's great. That's great.
And at first I was like, it's going to be so intimidating because it's huge. It's massive.
It is big.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's so well organized. You had wonderful instructors. I mean, the ones that we had were very, really wonderful.
Yeah.
And I was just so thankful that it's there. But it's so much more than just swim lessons, right? Like you guys do all sorts of stuff.
We do.
Yeah.
We do. We it's interesting. We not only do swim lessons for the local community, but we also work with the district in Pasadena and teach 3rd graders how to swim. And so every kid goes through the program in the 3rd grade in Pasadena, and they get their swim gear, and then at the end they get a medal, and we invite the families back. And we've learned over the years that it's, if a family is intimidated about sending their child to swimming lessons and they don't know us, one of the things that's made a huge difference in the last 10 years is to go into the classroom and work with the teachers and do a lot of pre-work, and then host meetings with families if they have questions about what's going to happen and we've seen a huge increase in parents coming and sitting on the bleachers while their kids are learning to swim. Oh. It's been lovely.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to get into that story more. But before that, thank you to Paris Baguette for sponsoring the delicious pastries each and every week for our guests. If you haven't already, go check them out. I know there's a lot of Paris Baguettes. This one in particular in the city of San Gabriel on Las Tunas. They've been a supporter of our show for many years. So go say hi to Jason and Joanna for us. Okay, ready, Melanie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She stepped into an SGV institution with a big mission and bigger stakes. After serving as the Rose Bowl Aquatics Center's chief financial officer starting in 2021, she took the executive director role in October 2024, leading strategy, partnerships, and long-term planning for a place built around wellness, water safety, competition, and community. Before that, she built a career in finance and operations across nonprofits, culture, media, and higher education, including senior leadership work connected to LAist, KPCC, and the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. Now she is helping steer the Aquatic Center into its next chapter, including the news that it will stage Olympic diving for LA 28 in 2028. Please welcome to the show, Melanie Sauer. Melanie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. This is really exciting. I'm a big fangirl of the show.
Of the show, okay.
Yeah, of the show.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that we were able to connect. The Rose Bowl, I mean, you are here as Melanie, but you're also here as a representative of the Rose Bowl. But the Rose Bowl is iconic San Gabriel Valley, and just so much in there. Like, it's almost, if you've never been there and you go in there, there's this whole other world, you know?
Right.
But I can't wait to get into that. But Melanie, first, let's start with you. What is your connection to the San Gabriel Valley?
That's a great question. I did the math, and I've been here for 40 years. And I grew up in San Diego, and I decided to come to school at Azusa Pacific. So I lived in Azusa, went to Claremont Graduate School, so I've lived in Claremont, and then I've lived in Pasadena, and now I live in San Marino. Not San Marino. I live in Sierra Madre, and have raised my family there. But, I think what drew me to the San Gabriel Valley is we always laugh about going vertical or going horizontal, meaning going to things along the 210 or coming and going south and enjoying whatever brings, either it's restaurants or anything. So it's a deep connection with the community. And, I think that, for me, it's been such a long time that I've been here, and I've worked at so many institutions and been involved with so many civic things that it's more of a home to me now than probably growing up in San Diego.
Oh. Yeah. So your roots are in San Diego.
They are. I grew up in San Diego, and I was a beach kid. So we would go to the beach all the time. And I remember that my mom, single mom, teacher down in San Diego. And so I was kind of a free range kid. And we would just take the bus out to La Jolla or wherever on the beaches. And I remember the beach being super flat there, and so you could go out pretty far and be in pretty shallow water. And I know my mom can't swim, and so she wanted to make sure that I learned to swim. So I learned to swim at Parks and Rec. So a shout out to all my Parks and Rec colleagues who teach kids to swim. And I remember being really far out in the water, and I know my mom has said many, many times she was out of her mind. She couldn't handle it that I could swim that well and be that far out in the water. So, so for me, when I think about my childhood, I think a lot about the time that we spent at the beach, and my perspective of our shores in California is that it is such a gathering place for so many communities, and it changes from location to location, but fundamentally it's a place where you can all gather here in Southern California. So it's pretty important to me. Yeah.
The image that you're evoking of the long, like walking out there, this must have been a cove, because so many California beaches, you get slammed with the wave almost right onto the shore.
Yeah, Newport's that way.
Yes.
Newport Beach is really quite frightening as a parent to bring your children there.
Yes.
But La Jolla, there's a cove around La Jolla, and then when you come around to the shore and the waves, it's pretty flat. It's a pretty flat beach, and so you'll see a lot more families and community members, picnicking out there and things like that, because parents, even if they can't swim, can wade in the water with their kids, and you won't experience as many riptides when you go out that far. So yeah.
It sounds like you had a connection to the water from a very young age.
I did. Like I said, I learned to swim in Parks and Rec, and at the time, which your children did not experience at the RBAC, they used to just sort of throw us in the water, make sure we could blow bubbles, and sort of teach us lessons from that perspective. But now we teach lessons much more intricately, carefully, and with safety as the utmost priority. And the kids, just making sure that they have confidence in the water, which I did as a young age. So that's a powerful motivator for me in terms of what I do every day. So, yeah.
Gosh, I haven't thought of the way I learned. I learned at Park and Rec at Barnes Park in Monterey Park.
Yeah.
It was summertime, so I would just walk there from my house. My mom, she's not really checking in. And the kid that I was, I just sort of took whatever. I remember water going in my nose, doing holding the kickboard over my head, and just it was a horrible, horrible experience.
It's traumatizing, right?
But I thought that everybody else is experiencing the same thing, and I'm looking around, no one's saying anything either, But it was pretty bad.
Yeah. We want children to push themselves, but the safety part of it and the psychological safety of building water confidence is more around going at their pace and meeting them where they're at. And so, we have limitations on the size of the kids we'll teach in a group lesson. Obviously, people can take private lessons. That's an option. But in those group lessons, which I'm not sure if that's where you learned in group, but,
I think there's like 8 or 10.
Yeah, that's a lot of kids, right? And so when you have young children, especially if you have, school-age kids, we have to limit the amount of kids that can be in each group. And so, I think it's this third grade program that we talk about, a lot of those kids, we had one kid in particular who had said to our instructors, I've never even been in a pool, which to imagine that and all of the resources that are around us. And it really comes back to, generational trauma. Either somebody doesn't know how to swim or they've been traumatized by a near drowning or drowning. So to bring them to a pool or even have access to a pool is heartbreaking because this child within, 2 weeks of lessons was water confident. We can't say for sure that he was 100% independent in the water, but certainly, confident putting his face in the water, which just builds such pride in these kids. It's really amazing. And even the teachers have noted that it helps with their classroom and cooperation and working together, because you'll see the kids in the groups work, because we group them by skill set. And so, just the water confidence and the confidence with each other and working together has been enormous for the classroom as well. Yeah. Wow. It's pretty amazing. Yeah.
I've seen videos of little infants in the water who can swim. Do you guys do that also?
Typically we do that with their parents together.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Oh, so there's classes for infants and parents.
Infants and parents together, or caretakers, depending upon, And, the other group of kids are our adaptive lessons communities. So either physically or developmental challenges. And we know that those kids are at risk, 70 times more likely to have an incident with water when they're young. My son is on the spectrum. He's high functioning, and he learned to become water confident in the water through the third grade program in Pasadena. However, part of who he is and being on the spectrum is this sense of intellectually, I think I know how to swim, but physically couldn't swim. And he had been at a party in 5th grade and needed to be rescued. And, just continually preaching water safety and, camp instructors, camp counselors, school outings, making sure that kids truly are demonstrating water safety before we let them loose in the community. But for me, that's a very special part of what I do, to have a lot of that instruction is one-on-one. We work with the regional center as a community partner and to give access to the kids. And we have a raised swim team, which allows kids who've learned, or young adults who've learned to swim, to continue on and compete. And we had a group of kids last year join the Pasadena Summer Olympics. And so they medaled, they had a blast, and I think for me, one of the things that I love about that program, and it's obviously near and dear to my heart, that at some point, as my child was coming up, we stopped getting invited to birthday parties just because other children thought he was odd. And the thing that I love about the adaptive community and the RBAC is that we are a community, and there's birthday parties and there's connection, and we have Halloween parties for our adaptive community. And I've heard parents say they've found their community of other parents that they can connect with, which was just enormous. And I know as a parent raising Ryan, finding those other parents to connect with, and just having a place to talk and listen and all that was so important to me. Yeah.
Ryan is your son's name.
Ryan is my son. Mm-hmm.
Gosh, that experience of feeling excluded, just because of who you are and
yeah,
visibly experiencing not being invited. That's terrible. But to find connection in this place where you may not think that that's where you're going to find it, right?
Yeah.
So maybe you also found connection with other parents there through that program.
Through that program, and then I did a lot of advocacy with parents, and so I formed small groups where we would connect. With the third grade program, when Ryan learned to swim in that program, I was a little more removed from it because I was at work. I was at work, and he was going on the field trip. But I think my husband now is on the board of Ability First, which is headquartered in Pasadena. And so we've also found community through that, and then just really putting ourselves out there and speaking in our community with other parents about who Ryan is and who that community is. I think really gave them an opportunity to learn, because at the end of the day, that was probably the hardest part for me personally was raising him, and people not really understanding. He's really bright, super bright, and but he's got these other roadblocks in his life that he had to overcome. So
yeah, with my own family, those roadblocks, I would say like the neurotypical world describes them as like you need to come up to or adapt yourself here, but the conversation is never the other way around,
right?
And we want them to just like to see their own roadblocks, but to see their own differences as beautiful and powerful and special, and not something that needs to be like fixed or adjusted,
right?
To our world. And in fact, I think we as the more flexible group need to be adapting to them.
Yeah.
But I understand with people on the spectrum, often they have a difficulty with proprioception, too cold, too hot, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like you said, maybe overestimating their abilities. The scary thing is like if you get into adulthood and you're out on an outing with friends and they're like, hey, let's all jump in.
Yes.
That is this terrifying thing, because then not only do you have to have the ability to swim, but you have to have the ability to stop, say,
Yeah.
and that becomes a difficulty or challenge also,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, it does. And I think, growing up in Sierra Madre was really helpful for him because my husband, Luther, would, volunteer to coach for Little Leagues and things like that to help bridge so he could do the things that his friends were doing. But on the other hand, his friends that he grew up and classmates that he grew up with kind of got who he was. And, there were moments where, some really heartbreaking things would happen, but he did have, 2 or 3 friends who would step in and intervene, just like my husband did, just so he could participate. And, but you're absolutely right. There are communities that have these skill sets that Ryan has, this ability to hyper-focus on something. I was laughing the other day. I go, we can't just watch sports we are a big sports family. And we can't just watch a sport, and people would think, oh, you're really into it because of, you're a fan or you're I go, no, we're gambling or what? No, we are talking stats. So as you can imagine, being big Dodger fans, we're both talking stats all the time. My daughter's a chemist. She's a chemistry student at University of Oregon, And so we joke about the fact that we only allow STEM, because I'm a finance background. My husband's a astrophysicist from JPL, and so it's all about statistics in our community. So we just have found ways in our family to adapt to Ryan's world, which is very full of stats and facts and things like that. So I always say we're a kid-centric family, and which has made kids going off to college extremely hard for me and my husband. But that need to be there for them and intervene. But it is a little unnerving when he's a robotics, getting his master's in robotics, and he goes on trips. I'm like, oh gosh, I hope somebody's looking out for him while they're out there, because you're absolutely right. The sometime overestimation of ability can be a little bit nerve-wracking for the people around him.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Or ability to detect the inference.
No.
Sarcasm.
Yeah.
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 So you've been here in the SGV for quite a while and started at Azusa Pacific.
Yeah.
Did you know what you wanted to do then?
I thought I did. I worked in higher ed for many years, and I worked in student affairs at various places like USC, Claremont colleges, Azusa Pacific, and I think for me, it's interesting when especially when I was at the Claremont colleges, Scripps College in particular, my role there in student affairs really sat in between students and faculty and the board and the administration, while being an advocate for our students. And so I think for me personally, it was taxing on me, because it just called upon a skill set. I'm an accountant. I am a finance person by nature and by trade. And so I think after a while of being in higher ed, obviously education's a big part of our family. Mom's a teacher. My aunt's a teacher. A lot of teachers in our family. Education, I'm not a classroom teacher by any stretch. It's not my skill set, but it is my family's. So for me, working in student affairs was really important. But after a while, I think it just became too taxing on me. And I decided to go back. I got my MBA from the Drucker School at the Claremont colleges, and was going to go in investment banking, and did an internship. And I thought, what am I doing? This doesn't align with my personal values. And at the time, I was doing recruiting for the Drucker School for the executive management program, and had recruited the then business manager for KPCC, now LAist. And he said, hey, come and do this pledge drive. And I go, what? What do you mean? I answer the phones? And he goes, so back in the day, people would volunteer and answer the phones for pledge drives. I said, okay. And so I was there for almost 15 years as the CFO, and moved up at supporting Marketplace, supporting Southern California Public Radio, or LAist, for many years, and watched it go from this really small community radio station at Pasadena City College all the way to, I think at the time, at the peak, we were the #1 station in the country. And I worked for some amazing humans, and we had a great board who really helped see the vision for what it could be and how it could serve the community in LA. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Interesting that you described, like, just seeing your face and reaction to that, like what you were building, even though you were the CFO, like the purpose seemed so much more important to you.
It did. Investment banking, you can make a lot of money. Sure, absolutely. But for me, I really need to be at places that align with who I am and the passions that I have. And I didn't even think of that as a career coming up, that there were so many, some friends and I talk about this, there were so many times that education was the only option in my career path. And so I've done something very different than the rest of my family. And I've found places that resonate deeply with me, and in particular, public media or public radio. The mission of the institution is to serve the community and reflect the community that we're in. But at the end of the day, it's about telling stories. That's why I love your show so much. Not to put a plug in, but I come from a long family history of fabulous storytellers. I am not one of them, but they are amazing storytellers. And I think I was so enamored about the fact that they were they're great storytellers, but also they're telling the stories of Angelenos, which I absolutely adore and align with all the work that they're doing. So much like your storytelling.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I think you are a great storyteller.
Thank you.
I got to hear some, and we've got to hear some just now on the show. The one quality that my dad had that I really, really want to have, he's passed, was I thought he was an exceptional storyteller, but he didn't know it. He would tell the same stories over and over again. As soon as he would start, it's the same entry, same tone. My younger brother and sister would look at each other like sort of smile.
Yeah.
Like, is he senile? Like, does he know? Maybe he's told it 10, 20 times.
Yeah.
Minutes into the story, we're hanging on every word as if we don't know the ending, and he delivers the ending in the same way, and we're just joyed to hear it. And like, how do you do that? How do you tell the same story?
I agree.
But he was really there. He knew how to transport us there with his emotion, and so.
Yeah.
But stories are really, really powerful. I'm curious. You mentioned this shift in you, or this awareness that you wanted to be driven by purpose. And how did that come about? Because it's so important, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe some people don't find that out until they've got all the money, all the cars, all the houses, and they're like, I'm not happy. Mm-hmm. So how did you come to that awareness for yourself?
That's a great question. As a child, I will say this. As a child, it started from things like, I didn't just go to the beach. I'm like, oh, there's trash here. We need to pick up all the trash. So my mom like, what are you doing? I go, I'm picking up the trash. I'm a big advocate of going on family trips, or even when you're just by yourself around Southern California, around California, and the Southwest. And I remember being very worried about our water supply as a kid, or things like when you see the Grand Canyon and you can see that the river is getting lower and lower over time, and you read stories about what it's like downriver for communities that no longer have water. And I'm like, why was I so attracted to those stories about our environment? And that came from a very young age. And I think my extended family, they're all fishermen and hunters and things of that sort. And my grandparents were, I would call them migratory farm workers. And they would travel from Arizona, and they would go kind of at the peak of the heat in the summer to the Central Valley of California to work, whether it be lettuce sheds or you name it. And so my parents, my mom, my aunt, everybody would work either in the fields or in the shed. And I was never exposed to that, but that's just part of our family history, and is being of the land and talking about the land. And I think for me, that's where it all started.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's a very fascinating perspective. I can hear your sense of wonder.
Yeah.
That is often, I think beaten out of kids through sometimes in education.
Yeah.
don't wonder, like focus here on this thing, or the way that education is sometimes presented. That's great that you have that. Melanie, before we go on, we ask each guest to bring an item with them. What did you bring with you today?
Well, I brought my son's, I guess, what are those called?
Sash?
Their sash. They sash when they wear for graduation. And he graduated a year ago from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, Arizona. That's a mouthful. In robotics. And I'll get a little teary-eyed. I remember the day, when you do college tours with kids, in our family, curiosity is kind of our mantra. That that my kids or any child, when they're going off to school, because I've seen it firsthand when it doesn't work, it's not a good fit. That at the end of the day, it has to resonate with that particular kid going off to college. And I remember we were doing the campus tour, and at Embry-Riddle, and my son leaned over to me and he said something to the effect of, "Mom, this is my school. I'm home." And I thought, oh my gosh, that he found this amazing community that accepted him for who he is, and he thrived there because of it. It was such a great place for him. And so I am incredibly proud of what he achieved. And he started during COVID, which, socially was so hard on so many students going off to school. But he found his place. And I'll be forever grateful for that. So that's was very meaningful.
Thanks for bringing that in and sharing that story.
Yeah.
I can get the sense of, it's not just your kid going to college. It's your child on the spectrum. How is he going to be accepted?
Right.
How is he going to be treated and all that? How is he going to feel? And it must be quite special too.
Yeah.
That he found that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did.
And I would imagine in robotics that kind of place is actively looking for neurodivergent people.
Yes. In fact, my husband, a former JPL scientist, that community and the sciences can be fantastic for kids who are neurodivergent. I think one of no two children are the same or two people are the same, but the ability to hyper focus on something and really dive in, whether it be my son picking up a book as a child about the presidents, and he knew everything about the presidents, or a friend of mine's daughter and niece knew everything there is about every movie ever made. And, whether that kind of ability to hyper focus can be beneficial, and it's so it's learning the social skills. And he had an internship with a local company, and the letter that I got back about his ability to function in the workplace there, it was a smaller company, which that's good information for him, was this beautiful letter about his contribution, really moving one of their projects forward. Was so touching to be able to read that. So
Yeah, I bet.
yeah.
I'm learning every day about autism, autistic momentum, inertia, and like this illustration of a train, takes a lot of energy and effort to get it going, right? And once it's going, like there's no stopping it.
Yeah.
And some of the lessons that I've learned recently is this deep dive. Let's say how can the person go on deep dive and figure out the mysteries of robotics, but has very difficult time responding to an email or text.
Yeah.
And those two things, like if I didn't learn about why that is, it feels like there's something that's not right there, right?
Right.
And so what I've learned is for some people on the spectrum, they can get on board with this thing because they know that it's going to require this massive amount of effort, but it's going to be worth it because it's this thing that they're interested in. But they can't generate that same thing for this little thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a fault of theirs, but so it's just again, I'm learning about it. So
Yeah.
and I'm just trying to share for people out there who may be stuck in that, like, what's wrong with you? How come you can do
Right.
this thing, but you can't do that thing?
That it's executive functioning skills, right? And so, it's staying up till midnight with him when he was in grade school or high school, working on an assignment, getting an F. Why? Because he forgot to turn it in, And it took us many, many years of what I said being his frontal lobe, if you will, of executive functioning to help put support systems around him, and being able to start to transfer that to him and taking his own ownership. And I think the advocacy piece, as a child grows and is able to become more and more independent and learn more about themselves, that they can become a stronger advocate for their own needs, depending on the level of support, and that's the way we think of it. Some young adults, and as they grow, may need more than what we can offer, and so sometimes you might have an aid or what have you. So it has been a very much a zigzag process in terms of our learning and his learning about who he is, of when to let go and when not to let go. We always laugh. There's typically, or people raising children, there's typically people around you who overreact and underreact. And so we always joke about, well, I was the overreactor, like intervene sooner, intervene more often. And my husband tended to give him a little more leeway. And I think that has just been a learning process for us, where it's been successful at some moments, and there's been some moments where it's been big consequences, like, that we've had to come in and support him that we weren't expecting to have to do, even now when he's in graduate school. So as he becomes more independent, it's still this zigzag process of trying to, like, well, that didn't work, or trial and error, or could this work better? So I think families and caregivers need to understand that you got to have support for yourself. You have to have a place to let that out, because it can be taxing on the family. And I think when you have neurotypical children as well, how does that impact that neurotypical child? Because a lot of attention is given toward the other child. And I think that can be really hard. And so finding ways to pay attention to that child too is so important. So important. Sometimes there's not a lot of energy left to do so. Yeah.
Well, that all really resonates with me. Before moving on from this topic, I'm curious, what were the signs? How did you know that your son was neurodivergent? Because they don't come with a stamp, right?
No, there's no instruction manual. He went to school in Sierra Madre, and we were fortunate enough to have a kindergarten teacher who recognized something going on with him. Prior to that, we didn't know yet. We can see now, looking back, where he went to preschool or early childhood education. I'm a big advocate. I've been on the board of the Child Educational Center since Ryan was there, so it's been over 20 years. They would have, there's a community service called Frostig Center, and so they would have some consultants come in to the classroom and do observations early on. So that was kind of our early on indicator from those consultants who came in and observed some behavior in him. And that was, and then, it was melting down or not being able to self-regulate. And so that was we didn't know what that added up to until about third grade. And we had really struggled to figure it out. And finally, the medical professionals around us that we have in our community recognized it in him. And so that's when he got his diagnosis. So there are some great resources in the San Gabriel Valley that just people who do testing, who can do analysis or work with families to get the diagnosis they need. And, a diagnosis isn't the end. It's only information about direction. It's not a label. It's not meant to limit. It's more to inform. So that's how we looked at it.
You guys were quite fortunate because so many kids are hammered into conformity, and like these behaviors are viewed as problematic behavior, like just so many things,
Yeah.
Wow. Thank goodness you had those resources available to you.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you were able to go there, because despite this not being about the Rose Bowl, it does give everybody a picture of who you are, what you've experienced, how you view things, and what makes you who you are. So I appreciate you going there.
Sure.
I do want to get into the Rose Bowl stuff and how you ended up there, but before then, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
Sometimes, even the best of us can slip up. That's why the law offices of Scott Wormuth are here to pick you back up again.
And while they strive to get you the biggest compensation possible, oh my gosh!
Their main concern is your health and recovery. They work closely with doctors and insurance companies to make sure you get the proper medical treatment.
Initial consultations are free, so give them a call.
At the law offices of Scott Wormuth, we're with you all the way.
I'm Scott Wormuth. We've been fighting for your rights for more than 40 years.
All right, we're back with Melanie. Melanie, what was your first job?
My first job was back in the day. They used to have, you could get your pictures developed at a little place called Photomat. And these little photomats were just you in a chair in this little house in a parking lot. And I remember my friend from high school worked there. She was the manager or something of some sort. And so I would sit there all day long. I think I was taking a class at San Diego State at the time, before college. And I would secretly look at pictures. It was just such an invasion of privacy. And help people get their pictures developed. It was such an odd first job.
Oh, like you were actually helping to develop them, put them in those envelopes?
I didn't develop them, but we would take the rolls of film in, send them off to the processor and bring them back. So when they came back, we'd, of course,
look at them.
Yes.
Is this against the policy?
I'm sure it was, but we were young. What do we know? So, yes.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I remember those. Like you just drop off your little film canister and come back
hope
on.
that the pictures turned out, right? You couldn't look at it. You couldn't preview it. So
sure.
Maybe you'd get a roll of just a bunch of terrible pictures, but that's how it kind of functioned at the time.
Yeah, I definitely remember that. Well, for me, I've answered this on the show many times. My first job was actually the United States Army. I left a few months after I turned 17. My mom signed a waiver for me to go. And so my first check was from Uncle Sam.
That is great.
Yeah. So let us know if you're watching or listening. Let us know what was your first job. So Melanie, let's talk about the Rose Bowl. Tell me about what it was like to move from CFO into the top position.
Yes. So never had the ambition to be anything other than the CFO. And I think, I had a lot of great teachers ahead of me, whether that's working under Bill Davis when he was at Southern California Public Radio, Mark Crowley, working at the Lucas Museum under some amazing leaders. And so in a lot of ways, I did feel very ready to step into the role of executive director. At the time, we didn't we didn't know. I thought, I'm stepping into a role of normal operations and, developing programs and expanding our reach. But really, these really interesting things have come about, namely that we learned last year that we would be selected to stage the Olympics for diving. And, it's interesting. I've worked at big institutions as they've transformed, and I would say that is my passion within a passion, is helping institutions go through transition. And that was always, that generated from as a kid of me stepping into different communities, growing up, and learning the rules, learning the culture. So I bring that to my work. At the end of the day, a community such as the Rose Bowl Aquatics Center, it has a lot of connection there. And so not only do we operate the institution, but now we have this very big thing called the Olympics right at our doorstep. And trying to imagine yourself in this big, expansive way, I don't think that I could think that big about an institution if I hadn't been at big places like public media as it became more and more significant, or the Lucas Museum of Narrative Art. And if you look out over the 13.2 acres that it sits on and just what it stands for in LA, and the vision for that institution to really bring art that you don't necessarily think of as art in that traditional sense to the forefront, which is what George is trying to do, George Lucas and his wife Melody Hobson. So to be able to think of something, we're a $10 million a year operation. We're not this big institution in Southern California in that sense, but now we're going to be on the stage, this international stage, as we move forward, which is powerful and transformative. And at the end of the day, when we circle back to coming back after the Olympics, we just had a very long board meeting last night where we approved our strategic plan for 26 through 30, thinking about who are we going to be when we come back. And we will continue to serve our community, because at the end of the day, we talk about being more than a pool. We're a place where people connect. We have water fitness communities that have holiday cookie exchanges, and that they've been going to water fitness together since inception in 1990. And that is their community. Older Americans find connection that they so desperately need. Or teammates on the swim team, the water polo team, that will last a lifetime. And when you think about the accessibility of what the vision of an Olympic venue could be for kids that don't see themselves on the diving board or don't see themselves swimming, that we have that opportunity. And we've already begun that work by working with partners such as USA Diving to break those barriers to access for kids to learn to dive for free. So we are excited that'll be able to propel us into the future and really bring a light to access for aquatic athletics, just on top of wellness, which is who we are, all those things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Congratulations on,
Yes.
You mentioned having some great leaders. Do you have a story where they showed up as great leaders? Like, how did you recognize that they were great leaders?
I think for me, Bill and Mark, who I worked with at KPCC now, like I said, LAist, and the board, as they began to build that institution, at one point there was a moment where Bill was so courageous to say, we don't reflect in the newsroom, we don't reflect in our audience to the extent we would like to, the Angelenos, and began working with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting on the largest grant that they had ever issued to transform our newsroom, not only from radio but also print and digital, but to start building the workforce for multilingual reporters who came from the community to tell the stories of LA in the broadest of ways. And so being in the community was really important to us at the time. And we all bought into that. And I think the hardest part is watching the public media community really question the direction, which was so surprising. And Bill's courage and conviction to drive the institution forward was the inspiration for me, as what it means in that moment, that there will be times that people don't understand my vision. There will be times that they disagree with where we're heading. And I think we don't want to not bring people with us, right? That is one of the biggest things for me about how I lead is, and Bill did too, is really caring about the staff and the community and that they come along with us. And that is what I've brought forward to the Rose Bowl Aquatics Center. It's unnerving for people to go, if they're used to being in a hierarchical institution, to one that's a little bit flatter and a little bit more collaborative. But I think I hire great people, and I need to listen to them. We have to have a great board, and we need to listen to one another to lead. So that's where it comes from.
Yeah, I could hear the courage in there before you said the word. And that takes great courage to stand up for something that you believe in and believe that you're leading with your values. And maybe I said this with you in our conversation over Zoom, but women are more horizontal, collaborative leaders. It's just a fact, right? And that is a much better way to lead versus hierarchical, vertical relating.
Yeah.
And even coming from the Army, where it is it is just private specialists hard. Like, it is absolutely vertical, right? Yeah. And I thought that has benefits, right? But I now, that I'm older, I think the only benefit of that is when you're being shot at, literally.
Yeah.
Bullets are flying, you need to go here, you do this. That kind of leadership is only needed in that environment. Mm-hmm. And everywhere else, you don't need that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited that the Olympics are coming here right to my backyard. But I know that you're so much more than that. Can you talk about, like, what are, I know I've seen seniors there, like, mm-hmm. floating with these, I don't know what they're called, but I could see them. They're all, like, having fun, just sort of floating out there. And then I saw there's, like, some other maybe rehabilitative stuff happening in the smaller pool. Mm-hmm. Like, what are all the programs that are there mm-hmm. that people may not be aware of?
Mm-hmm. So in addition to swimming lessons and our adaptive program for swimming lessons, our competitive teams of master swimmers. So if you're a swimmer and you want to venture into our master's team, we have a very large team, and we have an amazing coach. And diving, we also do adult diving lessons. So just that ability to overcome fear of looking down and see off a 3-meter board and feeling like you're going to not be able to make it. I'm afraid of heights, so I know our head dive coach would love it if I would go off the 10-meter platform when it's ready. I don't know that that's going to
Your social
happen.
media person probably would love it too.
They would probably love it too. But we anywhere from our competitive teams in water polo and swim teams, we serve over 1,100 kids and adults in competitive athletics, in addition to numerous water fitness classes, and our therapy pool is pretty special. And so that pool is warm. It's very warm, and so there might be something such as a wellness class called for arthritis folks, and then our instructors who teach that class are certified to teach an arthritis-led focused class, or they might have a special needs kid who needs warmer water for swim lessons, and then our what's called independent users who may need therapy in terms of walking and water, and it's not led by a therapist, but it is independent, so they may want to come in and do some walking. So of course we have chair lifts and everything to support, and our guards are absolutely supportive and helpful in every respect. So I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. I'm
You also
sure
used to have a gym there that you could work out.
We do have a fitness center. Our space, we are limited to our current space, which is 2 50-meter pools, our therapy pool, 2 spas, our locker rooms, and our gym is it serves a purpose, but it certainly is not extensive enough to support competitive athletics in aquatics. I think it's unknown that we call it dry land. There's drylanders. We call it dry land for training purposes, that it's a significant portion of training that happens outside of the water. And so we'd love to expand that footprint at some point in time, but for now it's made available to our lap swimmers and the like to work out.
Yeah. Melanie, thank you so much for sharing all that. In the interest of time, we're going to move on to the final segment of the show where we get to learn where you like to eat in the San Gabriel Valley. So, Melanie, this is the SGV3.
Okay.
And we want to know your 3 top places to eat in the San Gabriel Valley. So what would be number 1? Or not in any order.
Not in any order. Okay. First of all, every restaurant we go to has a story. And that is our family. I married a fabulous storyteller, as you would imagine. And so the 3 I selected have a story. And the first is La Adelina in Monrovia. And I don't know how we found it, but we did. And it's just this unassuming Mexican food restaurant in Monrovia. And I think for my husband and I, it became important because, the kids were off to college and we started exploring the San Gabriel Valley again, because it was when you have a kid on the spectrum, it's pretty much chicken nuggets and pizza. And so, we've been able to expand. So we were super excited to find La Adelina. Bess is our newest restaurant in Sierra Madre, and it's this Italian restaurant, which was just going to be a wine bar, but somehow the owners found this amazing female chef, and the food there is fabulous. The meatballs, everything, and so it became a restaurant. And for a while, it was only open a couple days. Now it's expanding. We're super excited. It's because we need more choices in Sierra Madre. And then
is it called Bess?
It's called Bess. Bess.
It's Italian.
It's Italian.
What do you like to get there?
I got the meatballs. It's got a lot of little dishes, so you can share. So I would say go there to share. Their chef salad's really great. The wine's good, of course. My husband gets a chicken parm, so it's pretty for a local place. It's pretty good. I went to grad school for a little bit in Boston. So when you are in Boston, if you've ever been, some of the best Italian food. So I've been seeking that since. And so this is pretty darn close. So I give it a thumbs up there. And then the last would be, while culinary-wise, it's not the greatest place in San Gabriel Valley, but we go to Lucky Baldwin's quite a bit, Delirium up in Sierra Madre. We walk up there. And why that's important, my kids, that is a community place, a community bar. Like I said, we're a sports family, so my kids have been going to bars since they were infants. But when we've had Little League, like post-Little League celebrations there. We've had birthday parties there. When Perseverance landed and my husband and his deputy PI, had sent an instrument on Perseverance to Mars, that's where we celebrate. That's where we have so many conversations. But the pinnacle is Halloween. So in Sierra Madre, there's trick-or-treating. And we would sit at the bar, and people now text us to want to know to save a seat for our Halloween connection, where we watch the kids trick-or-treat, and there may be a drinking game or two related to what the costume of the year might be.
Oh.
Like an Elsa's. Every time an Elsa walks by, there might be a sip of beer taken.
Interesting.
Yeah. Lots of fun. So it just has a lot of great memories there for us. Yeah.
For those who don't know, Sierra Madre is often described as like a sleepy mountain town. Very like, it's up there in the hills or mountains almost. And it's very tightly knit, it seems like.
It is. It's been exciting lately, though. You can tell that it's the demographic is changing in Sierra Madre, which I absolutely love. And I'm seeing a lot more families, a lot more, variety of people from all over. And, it's got some history there in terms of, Halloween, filmings, all this kind of thing. And then the Mount Wilson Trail Race, which happens every year. My husband's been working with a group of people who are rehabbing the trail for the trail race. So he goes up 3 days a week and helps them prepare the trails up there. So it's just this very interesting little mountain town that I cried when we moved there, by the way, because we were quote unquote living in the city down in Pasadena by Caltech, and we moved up to Sierra Madre. I'm like, oh, what have we done? We're in the country. But it has the most quaintest little 4th of July parade. And so I really want people to experience it. It's a great place to raise kids.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Melanie, thank you so much for being here today and sharing your story with us and sharing what's going on with the Rose Bowl. If people want to check out what you guys are doing or get in contact with you or visit, what's the best way to do that?
Go to our website. It's a fantastic way. We're pretty accessible, so if they just called and say, hey, I'd like to talk to Melanie, I'm sure I'd be happy to chat with them. And I think, as we go into more and more into LA 28 and looking at that, we'll be posting more on their website about what's happening with the facility. So
awesome. And you guys are also on Instagram.
Oh, we are on Instagram. I'm sure my marketing department would not be happy. We're on all the socials. Yes.
Yeah. And if you've never been, the Rose Bowl, when you go into the bowl, it's an actual bowl. It's on the south side of the park. Yeah. So, Melanie, I appreciate you coming here again, and thank you so much for sharing your stories with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Another episode in the books. I hope you enjoyed that, getting a peek into this leader in our community, sort of the things that shaped her and what she's bringing into an institution like the Rose Bowl Aquatics Center. I personally can step into a restaurant or a business, and how I experience the people, the environment, the culture there, I 100% know it's a function of the leadership. I know this. I experience it time and time again. And you cannot change a company just by changing standard operations, standard operating procedures. You just cannot do that. It is driven by values and culture, and it takes a very special type of person to be able to do that. So that's what I got from this today. I hope you got that, or maybe something else important. So if you like this kind of content, please like and share. If you want to see more of it, consider being a subscriber. You can check out more on our website at mysgv.net. And until next week, we'll see you then. Thank you for joining us on the MySGV podcast. Check out more of our content on our website, mysgv.net. This show was produced by Scott Wormuth, directed by Russell Mano, edited by Victoria Allers, and original music by Yone OG. If you'd like to join us next week as we capture and share more stories from our diverse community, feel welcome.
Nice mother. No, kind of mother.